It's been a long time since I've done a full like screen capture record style video where I scroll through the entire article while reading it to you so you can actually see the words. And usually I would only do this if I let's put it this way. If I have a point to prove about something, I'm going to do it like this. That way you can see it came from a credible source and that I'm not making this up. Now, how I came and found about this was on Twitter. I tell you, I be finding all kinds of stuff on Twitter. People be sending me all kinds of stuff, but I found this on Twitter. So we all know what 45 is going on or has going on right now with the whole voter fraud situation right here. And someone found some very interesting information that his supporters, especially his staunch supporters, especially ones that send him a lot of money, should definitely look into and probably stop sending him money at this point. And I'm going to read to you from two articles. This first one right here is coming from CBS, and it says money raised for Trump's election fights would help cover campaign debt. Now, many would say, oh, that sounds fishy and everything like that. But a lot of people who are in the political realm who have debts to face or to fight off have done this before. But it's just that in this instance, the lengths that he and his team has gone to say it was voter fraud and everything like that, when it most likely wasn't even that, to pay off these debts. Why would you lie to your base like that? Well, when you think about it, this might be one of the greatest finesse or grifts ever pulled in political history. And you're going to see why as I scroll through this article. So we're going to start right here. It says Washington, with President Trump refusing to acknowledge President-elect Joe Biden's victory and continuing to falsely declare himself as the winner of the White House, the president and his campaign are soliciting donations from supporters for an election defense fund designed to defend the integrity of the election. But the fine print shows that the full amount contributed to help the Trump campaign does not go toward efforts to ensure all votes are legally counted. Instead, at least half of each donation will go to paying off of the campaign's debt, donation pages state. For each contribution made to the Trump campaign's joint fundraising committee with the Republican National Committee, 60% will be deposited into the campaign's general election account for retirement of debt or into the campaign's recount account if that debt has been paid off. The remaining 40% will go to the Republican National Committee's operating account. Any additional money will be deposited in the party's legal proceeding account or headquarters account. For donations to the Trump campaign specifically, 50% of each will go toward paying off its debt and the remaining 50% will be deposited into its Recount account. The most recent federal campaign finance records available showed the Trump campaign with $60 million cash on hand at the beginning of October. The campaign will go on to spend upwards of $160 million on television ads in the final month before the election. CBS News projected that Mr. Biden as the winner of the presidential race Saturday as he cleared the 270 electoral votes needed to secure the White House. But Mr. Trump has refused to concede the election and instead has falsely claimed he is the winner. The president and his allies have also alleged that the election was rife with fraud, had filed lawsuits in a slew of states in an effort to litigate their way to the White House. Lawsuits filed in Nevada, Georgia, Pennsylvania, and Michigan, however, were thrown out by judges in those states, and Mr. Trump's campaign have yet to provide evidence of widespread fraud. Still, Mr. Trump is attempting to drum up support for his legal battles, sending out fundraising appeals that declare the election is far from over, as election results have yet been certified by the states and some states will hold recounts. The American people are entitled to an honest election. That means counting all legal ballots and not counting any illegal ballots, one fundraising email sent Sunday states. This is the only way to ensure the public has full confidence in our election. States have been varying dates for certifying the results of their elections, and December 8th is the deadline for determining their presidential electors and resolving any election disputes. Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger said Friday the state will likely head to a recount due to the margin of votes between Mr. Biden and Mr. Trump. The president-elect is currently leading by 10,501 votes in the Peach State. Even without Georgia, Biden's projected victories in Pennsylvania and Nevada put him over the 270 vote threshold needed to prevail in the Electoral College. The Trump campaign also said it would request a recount in Wisconsin, where Mr. Biden is ahead of 20,539 votes. So that's the first article right there. I'm going to pause it right quick and bring up the second one. So this one right here is coming off of Politico. And this one says where Trump's Recount fundraising dollars are really going. Money raised to pay for recounts goes to covering campaign debts, funding future political activities, and boosting like-minded figures. Let's see what they're talking about. And this one was posted on today. As a matter of fact, I'm recording this on November 12, 2020. The previous article I read was posted on November 9th. Shortly before the major news networks called the election for Joe Biden on Saturday, Trump campaign manager Bill Stepien dialed into a private call for top donors and allies to insist his candidate could still win the race and asked them one more time to chip in. The margins are close, Stepien said, and the campaign is still fighting. And while he recognized the call was meant as a briefing on the recount fights and not a fundraiser, Stepien made an ask anyway. He urged the donors to go to the campaign website and give to Trump's legal defense fund. Much of the money raised by Stepien, I'm not sure how his name is actually pronounced, and the Trump campaign won't go toward challenging election results, however, but to help set the stage for the president's next act. The Trump campaign has a recount fund, but the money won't go to it unless someone gives more than $8,333. Rather, 60% of the donation up to that account for Trump's official electoral defense fund is routed to a new PAC started this week by the president that can pay for a wide range of activities, but is likely legally barred from spending on recounts, lawyers say. The remaining 40% goes to the Republican National Committee, which is allowed but not required to spend on that recount. Prior to Tuesday, the majority of a donation went to helping Trump's campaign cover its debt. Trump's insistence is that there was voter fraud and demands for recounts are helping create post-election unity among his base and raise money the president can use to keep his political career afloat after January, political fundraisers and campaign finance experts told Politico. He has always understood that money equals power, and now he wants to have a bunch of money. It's going to give him a seat at the table. That's what he's doing, said Richard Painter, White House ethics lawyer for George W. Bush. If Trump can keep his base of largely white working class conservatives going forward, he can keep enduring influence over the Republican Party, Painter added. That's a very interesting statement that this Richard Painter said. This statement right here. Very interesting. He has these block of voters that other Republicans didn't have and probably won't have in the future. And that's what he wants to raise this money to control, Painter said. While many Republicans in Washington have privately dismissed president's claims about a stolen election as a flailing publicity stunt, Trump's narrative is proving far more compelling to voters. A full 70% of Republicans don't think the election was free or fair, a recent Political Morning Consult poll found, and politicians who have backed Trump throughout his presidency have increasingly lined up behind the president. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell said this week that Trump is 100% within his right to challenge the election results. Conservatives who have flourished during Trump's administration have become nearly as vocal about the election interference as the president himself. Dan Bongino, the commentator and podcaster whose posts are among the most shared on Facebook on a near daily basis, has unleashed dozens of posts a day alleging suspicious vote tallies and warning his supporters not to cow to moderates and liberals. We don't owe them a concession because there's nothing to concede. This election is not over, Bongino said in a video posted on Facebook Tuesday. Bongino is also an investor in and a prolific user of Parler, the right-wing news media site, billing itself as an alternative to Twitter that became the most downloaded free app on iTunes in recent days as Twitter repeatedly censored Trump's claims of fraud. On Parler, people seeking money off the election fraud claims include QAnon supporter Marjorie Taylor Greene, who last week won election to Congress in Georgia, has in recent days repeatedly circulated a Stop the Biden Steal petition and fundraising link to her followers. In the coming months, Trump could use the money from his new PAC called Save America, the existence of which was reported for the first time by the New York Times on Monday, to travel to the country and stage rallies, which can cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. He could promote candidates who were loyal to him and make donations to their campaigns. And if he wanted to, he could place his family members and former administrative officials on payroll and continue to host lavish events at his properties without tripping up campaign finance law. Former presidents have all sort of faded away after their last election. Trump is clearly a different person, said Ben Ginsburg, an election lawyer who served as counsel to the Bush-Cheney campaign and the RNC. He can go in and help candidates that he likes, and he can use the money to advocate on issues as they come up if he wanted to do that. He can keep a donor list fresh. So-called leadership PACs affiliated with lawmakers have come under scrutiny in recent years for their lax spending rules. In recent years, congressional lawmakers have used such PACs to travel to Puerto Rico and London, fly on private jets, pay dues at private membership clubs, and book rooms at the Trump International Hotel in Washington, D.C., a report by the Good Government Group Issue 1 found. Such PACs are much less tightly regulated than lawmakers' campaign committees, which carry strict rules about how a candidate can spend donors' money. Lawmakers are generally prohibited from using leadership PAC money to fund their campaigns, which makes it unlikely that Trump would legally be allowed to use his leadership PAC money to help fund legal fights, legal experts told Politico. I don't think the FEC has ever said leadership PACs can be used for this purpose, and I don't think they would allow it, said Adolph Nodi, former counsel at the Federal Election Commission. The Biden campaign is also raising money into a legal fund. Those funds go to the DNC and to the Biden campaign's Recount fund, both of which are allowed to spend money fighting Trump elections challenges. Currently, when a donor clicks on one of Trump's campaign's fundraising solicitations or donates on Trump's website, they are taken to the official election defense fund that will allocate 60% of the donation to the leadership PAC and 40% to the RNC. Once the donor has given $5,000 to the PAC, the maximum amount allowed for a PAC donation, then money will go to Trump's Recount fund and the RNC. Before Trump created the PAC on Monday, the website said a share of the donation will go towards the campaign debts. It's extremely misleading, said Nodi, who noted the RNC already had money set aside for recounts and other post-election legal proceedings that it may spend in the coming weeks. The DNC has a similar account. Though Trump attempted to overturn the election results could help him build a valuable foundation for the months to come, some establishment Republicans are increasingly concerned the push will suck money and energy from their party's biggest challenge in the coming months, the high-stakes pair of runoff Senate races in Georgia that will determine which party has control of the Senate. Senate Republicans have also made a joint fundraising page to collect money for Senators Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue, but it didn't attract the widespread social media attention of Trump's efforts. The real question for conservatives is, do you want Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi to have unfettered power, said Scott Jennings, a Republican consultant. The answer to that will be a resounding no. So you have all of that right there. It pretty much comes down and boils to one question. If 45 has all this money that he claims to have, why isn't he paying that out of his own pocket? Remember, they said that his taxes was $750. I wish my taxes could be even relatively close to that, because I know how much I paid last year, and I have a feeling how much I might pay this year, but I don't think it's going to be that bad, to be quite honest. But my goodness. But this was a very interesting find right here, and like I said, this is the biggest grift and finesse in political history. And the thing is, his supporters, even after reading all of this, if they was to get a hold of this, even whether they heard it from me or they went and found it themselves, they'll still contribute because they're not going to let it go. This is going to be interesting to see what's to come in the coming weeks, I should say. Hell, maybe even the coming months. But even his own family has told him that it's over. Just go ahead and concede. There's nothing more that you can do. So we'll see. But like I said, that's why I'm glad that I am on neither side of this. I'm right in the center, so I can really sit and observe from both sides, and I can really voice my opinion on both of them without sounding biased. Because y'all have heard my take when it comes to the Democrats, and you've heard my take when it comes to the Republicans. And it is what it is. Y'all let me know what y'all think about this down in the comments, and I will talk to you in the next one.